In this video, we're going to go over product selection for Amazon sellers. This is definitely something that sellers should not overlook. You can have the best looking listing, product photography, most expensive ad spend, all those sorts of things. But if you don't have a good product, it's going to be hard to sell. And so there isn't some $2,000 course that you need to learn to sell on Amazon. It really just comes down to two main things, which is product selection and having a unique selling proposition. So we'll kind of go over this as we go through the video. But one of the main things you'll need for this process is a product research tool like Helium 10. That's what I'm using in this particular example. So before getting into, finding a good product, I like to show you how to recognize a bad product. This is very important because, a lot of new sellers fall into the same trap. I see this all the time. They come in here on Amazon, they have their product research tool, they run it, and they take a look at the numbers here, and then their eyes light up because they see these products are making millions of dollars in revenue, making 30,000 sales per month. So without doing any additional research, they get something like this. They buy 1,000 units from Alibaba, $12 a piece, and then they put them up on Amazon, and they get zero sales at all. And the reason here is we're going to go ahead and show this. I mean, it's not to say you couldn't sell this product. It's just too late in the game to sell something like this. So if you take a look at the screen here, as I scroll down, you'll notice something in common. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll keep scrolling and you can get a better idea of what's going on here. Go all the way down here. Amazon used to let me click all the way to page 7 to show you, all the same items over and over again, but we'll go ahead and go to page 3. But if you take a look, page 3 looks exactly like page 1. And so the problem we run into here is that there's a ton of people in this marketplace all selling the same exact product, at varying prices. We got products here as low as $17.99 with 3,600 reviews. So if you get into this market, if you just picked something off the shelf from Alibaba that just looked like all these other products here, you have to ask yourself this question. It's very important. Why would the customer choose your product over an existing product here? So your product's going to start off with 0 reviews. You're probably not going to be able to charge as low as $17.99. This is probably an overseas seller, and they're probably trying to dump inventory because this marketplace is so saturated. So what would make them pick your product over this product here that has 3,000 reviews and you have 0 reviews and you're selling it at, let's say, $40? The answer is they're not going to choose your product. They're going to pick, the lowest cost product with the highest reviews. And if they're looking for something high end, they're also going to want to see reviews that back up why the product costs as much as it does. So this is just one example of many that are on Amazon here that is not a good product selection. So, what I like to do to find new products is, actually, before I get into that, what I think the best sorts of products are things that if you tell your friends about it, they're not that excited about what you're selling. You're not trying to sell an iPhone. You're trying to find some niche accessory that works with the iPhone, something like that. So you can come in here in the Amazon search bar and you can type, I like to type either, a sport, an interest, or, a job or profession, and then follow it by accessories because it gives you a wide range of things that you can look into. So I'll give you an example here. I do have some tabs, if you haven't noticed already loaded up, just to make this go a little faster, but we'll go into golf accessories. So this is just an example of how I would do this. And click enter here. And you don't even have to be into this marketplace or know anything about golf to enter it. You can learn everything you need to know from the reviews using Google, ChatGPT, whatever it might be. So when we scroll through here, we're looking at all the different accessories, golfers use. And when you have a very specific target, it makes it a lot easier to advertise towards this audience. So we're going to scroll here, see what we got. Look for things you've never heard of before, things that look interesting. At first, maybe avoid electronics and stuff like that, but look for things like, these towels or cloth, some basic things that are easy to produce and can be produced pretty cheaply. So we got a golf trunk organizer here, which is going to bring us to, I'll scroll down through here and, I'm going to pick, this one's actually interesting here, golf cooler bag. Let's look at one page here, get an idea. So you notice there's so many products on Amazon to choose from, so you don't have to pick something that's oversaturated like those massage guns that we're looking at. So I already have one queued up, ready to go, and this is a golf shoe bag. This is a pretty interesting marketplace. I'm not saying to get into it. I definitely wouldn't. But I like to use this as an example because it's easy to show you the important part of, product selection you're going to have to do on your own, but it allows me to show you how to come up with a unique selling proposition for your product. So we'll take a look at some of these products here, and we can run the X-ray here and take a look at some of these products. So what I like to see in the marketplace starting out is between, 100 and 300 units per month, I think is good, because we're not going to try to sell 1 million of one SKU. We're going to try to sell, thousands of many SKUs. It's a lot easier to do it that way. You pick a product. If that works, you can expand upon the brand from there. So we're looking here and we'll notice that, you got 300 sales, 400 sales, 100 sales, 200 sales, and these are all within the top 10. So this is a pretty easy marketplace to get into, not that difficult. There are some big brands in there, Adidas, but you'll notice these generic brands are selling better than the Adidas bags. And the reason is, a lot of the times these big brands are not even necessarily sold by Adidas, it's sold by their distributors. So they, the listings usually aren't as good. There's only a couple pictures and there's not much information about that product. So that's why you're able to compete in a marketplace like this. So we're going to take a look at some of these golf shoe bags. These are all the ads at the top. This looks like the number 1 ranked product here. Golf Kirks probably is what it's called. We'll take a look at a few more here. So the good thing you want to look for here is, this one has 2,000 reviews. That's fine, because there's other products within the top 10 that have 100 reviews or 200 reviews. So that means you're not that far behind. If all the top 10 had 2,000, 3,000 reviews, then maybe I would say, okay, be a little cautious about this marketplace. But this is sort of what I like to see. So next we're going to go in and see what people like and don't like about a product. So we're going to pick this one here, take a look at the listing, and we're going to figure out a way to make our unique selling proposition within this marketplace. So we'll take a look at the reviews and see what people like about the product. So we'll take a look at the 5-star reviews. Keeps the dirt out of your car, durable and breathable, has room. We note all these things down on an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So people like that it has room and it keeps their cars clean. So we definitely want to keep that stuff in mind. So now we're going to look at what people don't necessarily like about this product. The seams pull apart on first use. Okay, so they don't like the quality. Zipper is a weak point. So quality and zippers, stitch defect. So a lot of people are complaining about the quality in the zippers. So those are some pretty easy things that we can fix here. So next, we're going to go ahead and go and see how much, we're interested in the product. Looks like something we can get into. We want to look at the fees for the product. Let's say, so $10.95 fee from Amazon. They're selling it for $21.99, so they have about $11 worth of room. So maybe this bag costs $5. They're making $5 or $6 per unit. So we're going to take a look over on Alibaba for golf shoe bags. And what a lot of people don't realize is you can pick any of these manufacturers and request them to make the changes. You don't have to go and look for one that has a specific design you want. These are just examples. They'll make this exact same thing. You can request something different, and that's what you want to do. You want to create your unique selling point. So we have a few ideas here. We got, people like the size of the bags, but they're disappointed with the quality of the bag. So this one looks like a pretty good design here. So if we contacted this manufacturer, we give them our specifications, the size, the shape, all those sorts of things, and their designers will help out too. But you'll say, you know what, I really want stronger zippers. So I'm kind of familiar with, bags and products like that and zippers. So you could say, I don't want to use the generic zippers. Let's go ahead and use YKK zippers. So, or SBS zippers. So maybe they'll cost an extra 50 cents or $1 per unit, but over time, you're not going to get the bad reviews that these other companies are getting because you have higher quality zippers. And then there's things like fabric. If you have the difference between a high-end bag and a low-end bag from the China side is maybe only the difference between like $1 and $1.50 per unit. So you can increase the quality of the fabric being used, the zippers, and then you're going to want to change the design as well. So I like to tell people to not just think of things, unique aspects within the golf industry here. Let's go back to golf shoe bags. Here's an example. So this brand here took a golf shoe bag and then they added to it. So they added some cool stuff like, a better handle, a carabiner, They added some zippers. So, they added some military type, I forget what you call these things, loops that you can hold extra accessories. So they've thought of some unique aspects that they can bring to the table. So that's great. You can add those to your bag as well, so you can stay as good as this bag, but we're going to try to make our product even more unique. So what I like to say is, take a look at things from other marketplaces. So this is a bag brand that I think my wife introduced me to. And you can take ideas from these other types of products. So if you look here, look at all these different accessory pouches. So they got a water holder, a place for cell phone charger, tablet, whatever it may be, key holder. So these are all ideas that I bet you half of these aren't even in the golf shoe bags that already exist. These are just some ideas you can use and incorporate it in your product if you think it makes sense for your marketplace. I think the key thing could be helpful. A water bottle holder could always be helpful. Some internal pockets as well. So we can add those to the product here on Alibaba. So all we have to do is reach out, tell them our requirements, tell them what additional aspects we want. And now we have a brand new product with a unique selling proposition. And so this does a couple things. It separates you from the existing product. So now we answer the question, why is someone going to pick my product over one that has 100 reviews already? The reason is because we have a cell phone holder, a keychain holder, and, whatever other aspects we added. So our product is different. So even though we have no reviews and maybe are a couple dollars more, people are willing to pick our product. So that's one way to make our unique selling proposition is, do a little research, find out what people like about the product, and then incorporate other ideas from other marketplaces. So that's a great way to start off. So key reminders here, you need a good product selection. Start out with something with between 100 and 300 units, 150 to 300 units, something like that for all the top 10 products. You can have one that sells like, 2,000 units. That's fine. It's nice if that top 10 also has a couple products in there that don't have thousands of reviews. Maybe they have 50, maybe they have 100. That's a good sign that you're in a good marketplace. And then you want to think about something like ratio as well. So the ratio I'm talking about is if I spend $5 on this product, I want to make at least $5 in profit. So that's a 1-to-1 ratio. Anything lower than that, that's for companies like Samsung and Sony. They can afford to have less than that ratio because they have a lot of cash. As you add more and more SKUs, you're going to need that cash floating, for the manufacturing time, which is 30 days, sea shipping time, another 30 days. You need cash for all that time. So it's best to find something with a 1-to-1 ratio at least. But if you really want to expand your brand, find a marketplace where you have a 2-to-1 ratio or higher. So that's if you're buying the product for $5, you're making $10 profit. So you're not going to find these things in one sitting. This is the type of thing you need to spend hours and hours upon. You're doing this every week and you have a spreadsheet and you're going to come up with, let's say 100 different items. You're going to put those in a spreadsheet and you're going to kind of narrow that down to maybe your top 10. And then maybe you can reach out to me or reach out to someone that's familiar with Amazon and have them look at your products and give you, some pointers. This unique seller proposition might work. This one might not, and give you some ideas for things that you may have missed when you were doing this research. I hope that's of some help. Let me know if you have any questions.